Physical versus paper. How much gold and silver should you hold? Precious metals, the physical paper 50-50 baseline. The 50-50 relative allocation between physical and paper metals is a strategic baseline that acknowledges both the irreplaceable insurance function of physical holdings and the practical advantages of paper exposure. Ideal allocation will depend on your own circumstances, but the 50-50 split represents a good starting point. The 50% physical portion aligns with the fixed allocation tier from our strategic asset pyramid framework, assets secured outside the financial system and held with minimal trading activity. The 50% paper portion corresponds with the semi-fixed allocation, offering superior liquidity during normal market conditions. Paper instruments allow efficient portfolio adjustments with minimal bid-ask spreads, instant execution, and no physical logistics. Types of precious metals, ownership and their counterparty risk. Except for home storage, though it comes with other concerns, the primary risk factor for all metal holdings is that of your counterparty. The possibility that the institution storing your physical metals or providing your paper exposure fails to honor its obligations. Understanding the varying degree of this risk across instruments is crucial for strategic allocation decisions. When discussing different types of precious metals ownership and storage, standard allocated accounts are generally considered to provide a very high level of security. With directly identified bars held in your name, these accounts should theoretically remain secure even during provider bankruptcy, as your specific metals remain your property rather than becoming part of the bankruptcy estate. Allocated accounts with segregated vaulting is a premium service offering an additional safety layer with dedicated storage space. Private safe deposit boxes are considered a secure storage option for precious metals. Just as with the allocated account types, the property typically remains yours in the event of bankruptcy. However, here you're leasing space rather than getting a custody service, and if a dispute arises, the burden may fall more heavily on you to prove what's in the box. Home storage provides complete control over your physical precious metals with zero counterparty risk, but introduces its own significant challenges. Home storage creates substantial security vulnerabilities primarily from theft, but also things like fire and flooding. Even with quality safes and additional security measures, the protection level typically remains below professional vaulting standards. For smaller allocations, this might be acceptable, but as holdings grow, the risk-reward balance increasingly favors professional storage solutions despite their modest counterparty exposure. ETFs like GLD and SLV represent a paper metal ownership structure designed for efficient market exposure rather than direct metal access. These instruments track spot prices with minimal deviation. During significant system stress, however, their prices might disconnect from physical metal values. The primary advantages are exceptional liquidity, minimal trading costs, and simple implementation within standard brokerage accounts. Futures contracts represent a paper metal ownership structure with higher counterparty risk. These standardized agreements to buy or sell metals at predetermined future dates and prices operate primarily through exchanges and clearinghouses. Futures serve valuable tactical functions for short-term trading or hedging, but represent perhaps the least reliable form of metals exposure during financial system disruptions, making them inappropriate for core preservation-focused positions. Jurisdiction and diversification. In jurisdictions with unfavorable precious metals regulations, including reporting requirements, taxation, or potential restrictions, higher relative allocation to paper metals may be justified. Conversely, jurisdictions with favorable metals regulations might allow higher physical allocations. For investors with significant international flexibility, physical holdings distributed across 2 or 3 carefully selected jurisdictions provide strong resilience against location-specific risks. Family-based diversification can potentially provide both cost savings and enhanced security through geographical distribution, especially valuable for those with moderate-sized holdings where commercial multi-jurisdiction vaulting might prove cost-prohibitive. Systemic risk assessment. It makes sense to include your general systemic concerns in the allocation strategy. An exact 50-50 physical paper relative split might be best suited for those with moderate concerns about the financial system. Here, 10 to 15% of strategic assets would be allocated to physical metals and 10 to 15% into paper metals. The remaining 70% would be allocated to other assets such as stocks, other commodities, and potentially cryptocurrencies. Someone with more serious concerns about the financial system should typically aim for both a larger precious metals allocation overall and a higher relative allocation to physicals. This type of investor might want to allocate 30 to 40% of their strategic assets to physical metals and 15 to 25% to paper metals. Conversely, an investor with minimal system concerns might want to hold just 15% of their strategic assets in precious metals with 5% in physical form and 10% in papers. Time horizon. Your investment time horizon significantly influences the optimal physical paper balance. Investors with moderate concerns about financial system viability and with shorter horizons, such as 1 to 3 years, might justifiably allocate more heavily toward paper instruments, perhaps 65% to reduce transaction costs for the anticipated near-term transfer. The reduced insurance value of physical holdings becomes a reasonable trade-off given the compressed time frame and lower probability of systemic events within this window. Conversely, investors with multi-decade horizons might consider physical allocations reaching 70%. Gold's storage advantage versus silver's barterability. The physical paper distinction becomes particularly nuanced when considering density. Physical gold offers unmatched wealth density, around $100,000 per kilogram at current prices, making it exceptionally efficient for storing significant value in minimal space. Silver's lower density, approximately $1,000 per kilogram, creates logistics challenges and storage cost considerations. This would make paper-silver instruments seem more convenient compared to their gold counterparts. However, in the event of gold-silver ratio compression, which means silver overperforming against gold, you could end up with a disproportionately large paper metals position overall. This means that maintaining the 50% baseline of your silver in physical form remains prudent for most investors. Beyond the storage efficiency advantages of physical gold, silver offers unique barterability potential absent in other precious metals holdings. The widespread recognition and manageable value per unit in small denomination silver coins create practical utility should conventional financial channels become impaired. Consider allocating 10 to 20% of your physical metals to silver coinage. Keep in mind, though, that in an immediate crisis, the ability to exchange metals at fair market value may become compromised. Holding other essential supplies will help avoid desperate liquidation of your metals in the chaotic stage. Practical implementation. Implementing the physical paper framework requires several practical steps beyond theoretical allocation percentages. First, establish secure storage solutions for physical holdings before significant acquisition, whether through allocated accounts, private safe deposit boxes, home security systems, or other approaches. Each option presents distinct trade-offs between accessibility, cost, and counterparty exposure, with the ideal approach often involving a diversification of methods. For paper holdings, evaluate the counterparty risk profile of available instruments within your jurisdiction. Your liquidity needs and willingness to trade in and out of positions will determine which type of paper asset might suit you best. For larger exposures, consider diversifying across multiple providers. Begin implementation with a systematic plan rather than reactive market timing. Barring an extreme system seizure event that could be followed by instant upward revaluations, dollar cost averaging into both physical and paper positions reduces timing risk while allowing gradual refinement of your specific approach. For physical acquisition, consider establishing a relationship with one or more reputable precious metals dealers for ongoing accumulation programs. With such programs, delivery is set at specific intervals, meaning you don't need to pay for shipping on every small purchase. As your metals portfolio grows, document your holdings methodically, including purchase dates, prices, and storage locations. For physical metals, maintain authentication materials, purchase receipts, and any relevant certification, particularly for significant holdings. This documentation not only assists with potential future liquidation, but also simplifies estate planning and intergenerational wealth transfer. The physical paper balance represents your fundamental perspective on systemic risk and financial resilience. The 50-50 framework provides a middle ground, acknowledging both the insurance function of physical metals and the practical advantages of paper exposure. Calibrated for individual needs, this framework neither dismisses legitimate concerns about counterparty risk nor sacrifices the superior liquidity and efficiency of well-structured paper instruments.